All praises to the Most High, whose true name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh, and the name of his only begotten Son, whose true name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh Shai, our Lord and Savior, and the Holy Spirit, which in the ancient Hebrew is the Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the elders of GMS, who taught us this truth by the Holy Spirit. Honors to the brothers risking their life and freedom to push the gospel. Peace and blessings to the elect, who consist of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, who make up the lost 12 tribes of Israel, according to scripture and prophecy. The elect will be 1/3 of the Israelites, who in these last days are returning back to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai for salvation, while the 2/3 of Israel who don't seek the Lord in time be destroyed with America. And that's all according to prophecy. We back with another lesson through the mercy of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. This lesson is going to be titled, Thou Most Proud. Again, lesson is titled, Thou Most Proud. And that's concerning Esau, Edom, the so-called white man here in America. All the nations are proud to some degree, but America is the most proud. That's why Trump is the face of America. He's the embodiment of America's pride, which her pride is through the roof right now, which means she's about to be met with destruction. You know, she's about to experience that downfall. And real quick, we're going to get this. Proverbs 16:18. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. And we see this with America right now. Now, before the truth, people will use this like if a drug dealer is doing good and he's profitable, he get carried away and get too money hungry, he'll finally get caught up. Or if anybody is doing any dirt and they get too greedy, they eventually get caught up. People usually use this verse in all the wrong places. But Proverbs 16:18 really goes into the destruction of a kingdom. It goes into a fall or a collapse of an empire. And we're going to prove it. But again, pride or being proud go with before destruction. That's how we know America's about to be destroyed, because her pride or proudness is at an all-time high. It says a haughty spirit before a fall. And again, this is dealing with the fall of a kingdom or the destruction of a kingdom. And we're going to prove it here in the book of Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach. We're going to start at verse 10 and 9. Why is earth and ashes proud? And this is dealing with man. Because we know Genesis 2:7, what? He formed man from the dust of the ground. So why is earth and ashes proud? Why is man proud? Especially Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, who's the basis of men. It says, there is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. For such a one setteth his own soul to sale, because while he liveth, he yet casteth away his bowels. And we see the wickedness of Esau, Edom, the white man here in America at an all-time high. That covetous man. You got Epstein Island. They're trying to cover up that with the war, using the war to steal resources and steal land and cut off the oil and the supplies to other countries just because he want what everybody else got. And in the process of doing that, he's destroying himself. In the process of America trying to establish its dominance, she's going to get herself destroyed. But that's all due to her pride or her being proud. Now let's prove that this proudness or pride that goeth before destruction is dealing with the fall of kingdoms. The physician cutteth off a long disease, and he that is today a king, tomorrow shall die. Don't mean that the king, that Trump, is going to die, but his kingdom is going to be destroyed, in the midst of his pride. Now, continuing on, we're going to get here, verse 13. For pride is the beginning of sin, and he that hath it shall pour out abomination. And again, America and her pride, which Trump is the embodiment or personification of America's pride, is pouring out abomination. And therefore the Lord brought upon them strange calamities and overthrew them utterly. So you see that? Pride goeth before destruction. This is dealing with the fall or the collapse, the destruction of a kingdom or empire. And then here again, it starts off by talking about pride, then goes on to say, the Lord overthrew them utterly. When you read through the records, especially in the Bible, all the kings of the earth got overthrew in their pride. Even some of the wicked kings of Israel and Judah. The Lord hath cast down the thrones of proud princes. See, that pride or being proud gets you cast down. You're overthrown. The Lord has cast down the thrones of proud princes and set up the meek in their stead. And that meek in this lifetime is going to be the elect, which will be the humble, the 1/3 remnant of the house of Israel. The Lord hath plucked up the roots of the proud nations. This is past tense. This has happened. Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian Empire, the Assyrian Empire, the Greeks, the Romans, the ancient Egyptians, the Canaanites, all the people who took Israel captive through the book of Judges. The Lord plucked up the roots of them proud kingdoms and planted the lowly in their place. That lowly is always dealing with Israel. The Lord overthrew countries of the heathen and destroyed them to the foundations of the earth. Again, many examples throughout the scriptures. He took some of them away and destroyed them, and hath made their memorial to cease from the earth. And that's going to be the fate of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Their memorial is going to cease to exist. There's going to be nothing left of them. Now, continuing on, we're going to get to verse 18. Pride or being proud was not made for men, nor furious anger for them that are born of a woman. So again, the Lord said, why is earth and ashes proud? And, first and foremost, that's dealing with Esau, Edom, the so-called white man right now. But we see how pride goeth before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. That's dealing with the fall and the collapse of an empire. In America, as a global power, is falling. Now, the thing about America and Esau, the white man, Trump, they supposed to be the smartest, most developed kingdom, full of wisdom. They the most proud, though. So they the most proud, but they the most stupid. Because they got the records. We're not just talking about the scriptures. They got real history, collected from the other nations. And they know and understand the previous great kings and empires of the earth. The Lord overthrew them in their pride. So the scriptures is really a memorial, meaning a reminder of how not to be when you in rulership. Never get full of pride. Never get over proud, because that's when the Lord come and overthrow you. And Esau, who's supposed to be full of wisdom, is making the same mistakes as all the other great kingdoms and empires that came before him. So what? He's going to have the same fate. He's going to be completely overthrown. forgive me. And then that's mistake number one. The other great kingdoms and empires of the earth, what other thing did they have in common? They usually had the children of Israel captive. So here it is, Trump got the children of Israel captive, once again, in the worst captivity that we've ever been through, and then he's the most proud. So what you think the Lord gonna do to him? Now, I got his most recent speech, and we're going to break it down and compare him to the other great kingdoms that have come throughout the ages. And we're going to in particular compare him to the king of the Assyrians, which America is spiritual Sodom, spiritual Rome, spiritual Egypt, spiritual Assyria. So America is pretty much, what's the word? A compilation of all our previous kingdoms wrapped in one. You can see a little bit of all the previous kingdoms here in America. And when you go into the kings of the earth, whom the Lord overthrew in their pride, again, the nations were overproud, full of pride. They would boast and speak against the Most High, boast and speak against his people, and they will often brag about their accomplishments, about what they did to the other nations and their gods, who they defeated, what riches and what spoils they got, how they got the best military, the best army, that they gonna do this and they gonna do that. What they gonna do, people? Nobody can make war with them. Who that sound like? That sound like America. But America ain't the first one to be overly proud. We gonna read these same statements and stuff that Trump about to brag about. We can read that in the scriptures dealing with the king of the ancient Assyrians. And we gonna get that. But first, we gonna let Trump talk, say a few things, and then we gonna go back and forth between Trump speaking and the king of Assyria. So let's see what he got to say.
Let me begin by congratulating the team at NASA and our brave astronauts on the successful launch of Artemis 2. It was quite something.
And I ain't even know these niggas going to the moon, so they already boasting about going to the moon, which they can't do. So not only is he full of pride and overly proud, but he lying on top of that. And he's so proud because he just know you dumb American people gonna believe him. But let's continue.
It will be traveling further than any manned rocket has ever flown and will very substantially pass the moon.
See that? It is gonna travel faster than any other rocket before it, and he's gonna pass the moon.
Go around it and come back home from a distance that has never been done before.
See that? It's dealing with America, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, and Trump being the face of Esau, Edom in America. Pretty much everything they've done never been did before. They can't be beat. They accomplished this. They did this. They did that. They gonna do this. They gonna overthrow this country. That's what you're gonna get from this speech, and that's what we're gonna read over here in 2 Chronicles chapter 32. Now I'm gonna try not to interrupt, just to let Trump speak in his pride.
Amazing. They are on the way, and God bless them. These are brave people. We want to God bless those 4 unbelievable astronauts. As we speak this evening, it's been just 1 month since the United States military began Operation Epic Fury, targeting the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, Iran. In these past 4 weeks, our armed forces have delivered swift, decisive, overwhelming victories on the battlefield. Victories like few people have ever seen before. Tonight, Iran's navy is gone. their air force is in ruins. Their leaders, most of them, terrorist regime they led, are now dead.
Nigga lying, but you see what he's proud about in overthrowing the kings of the earth, destroying these nations and their militaries and their gods, and taking this, taking that, being victorious. Nobody can make war with them. But let's keep listening, because we're going to read these same things about the ancient Assyrians.
Their command and control of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is being decimated as we speak. Their ability to launch missiles and drones is dramatically curtailed, and their weapons, factories, and rocket launchers are being blown to pieces. Very few of them left. Never in the history of warfare has an enemy suffered such clear and devastating large-scale losses in a matter of weeks. Our enemies are losing, in America, as it has been for 5 years under my presidency, is winning, and now winning bigger than ever before. Before discussing this current situation, I also want to thank our troops for the masterful job they did.
Man, let's zoom in on this nigga, man. Man, dude, funny.
In taking the country of Venezuela in a matter of minutes.
See that? Taking president of Venezuela in a matter of minutes. This is what they boast in. This is what they proud about.
That hit was quick, lethal, violent, and respected by everyone all over the world. After rebuilding our military during my first term, we have by far the strongest military anywhere in the world. And now we're working along with Venezuela and are, in a true sense, joint venture partners. We're getting along incredibly well in the production and sale of massive amounts of oil and gas, the second largest reserves on earth after the United States.
So yeah, talk about how they pretty much overthrew Venezuela and pretty much beat them into submission. And now they got a partnership, which is not a partnership, but America has taken over the oil market out there. So again, boasting in who he's overthrown, who he's beat, what he's taken, this and that, greatest military, quickest victory ever. But let's look at this over here. And we're going to get this in the NLT. This is 2nd Chronicles 32. We're going to get verse 9 down to 21. We're going to go back and forth between Trump and the scriptures. Sennacherib threatens Jerusalem. So again, what these previous empires have done was be overly proud and full of pride. And part of that pride would be to them having the children of Israel in captivity. At this point, Sennacherib have already taken the northern kingdom. But now he's trying to take the southern kingdom. But the Lord ain't going to allow it to happen. But again, he's going to be operating out of pride and being overly proud. And you're going to see it through the statements that he makes. It's going to pretty much be identical to the stuff Trump is saying. While the king Sennacherib of Assyria was still besieging the town of Lachish, he sent his officers to Jerusalem with this message for Hezekiah and all the people in the city. See what this nigga gotta say. This is what the king Sennacherib of Assyria says. What are you trusting in that makes you think you could survive my siege of Jerusalem? Hezekiah has said, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, our God, will rescue us from the king of Assyria. Surely Hezekiah is misleading you, sentencing you to death by famine and thirst. Don't you realize that Hezekiah is the very person who destroyed all the Lord's shrines and altars? He commanded Judah and Jerusalem to worship only at the altar at the temple and to offer sacrifices on it alone. Now we about to really get into it. Surely you must realize what I and the other kings of Assyria before me have done to all the people of the earth. Pretty much bragging about how they defeated all the other kings of the earth. Don't that sound like Trump? Talking about swift victory, quickest victory yet. All of the world respected how they took Venezuela. It says, were any of the gods of those nations able to rescue their people from my power? Which of their gods was able to rescue its people from the destructive power of my predecessors? What makes you think your God can rescue you from me? Don't let Hezekiah deceive you. Don't let him fool you like this. I say it again. No God of any nation or kingdom has ever yet been able to rescue his people from me or my ancestors. How much less will your God rescue you from my power? So you see, this sounds a lot like Trump, as of recently. And not only is he speaking against Israel, but he said, how much less will your God, how much less will Yahweh rescue you from my power? So now he's speaking against the Lord. And then when you read in between the lines with Trump, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, the Department of War, they speak these same great words against the Most High. Like when Pete Hegseth said, their enemies will feel the overwhelming power of America. Who do you think the enemies are? They talking about the 12 tribes. Indirectly. Yeah, they may be talking about Iran, Russia, but it's really talking about the 12 tribes, as well. Let's get some more Trump.
America, we're now totally independent of the Middle East, and yet we are there to help. We don't have to be there. We don't need their oil. We don't need anything they have, but we're there to help our allies. Tonight, I want to provide an update on the tremendous progress our warriors have made in Iran and discuss why Operation Epic Fury is necessary for the safety of America and the security of the free world. From the very first day I announced my campaign for president in 2015.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it.
I have vowed that I would never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. This fanatical regime has been chanting death to America, death to Israel for 47 years. Their proxies were behind the murder of 241 Americans in the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut, the slaughter of hundreds of our service members with roadside bombs. They were involved in the attack on the USS Cole, and they carried out the countless other heinous acts, including the just horrible, bloody atrocities of October 7th in Israel, something that most people have never seen anything like it. This murderous regime also recently killed 45,000 of their own people who were protesting in Iran. 45,000 dead. For these terrorists to have nuclear weapons would be an intolerable threat. The most violent and thuggish regime on earth would be free to carry out their campaigns of terror, coercion, 7 years, and should have been handled long before I arrived in office. I did many things during my 2 terms in office to stop the quest for nuclear weapons by Iran first, and perhaps most importantly, I killed General Qasem Soleimani in my first term. He was an evil genius, brilliant person, a horrible human being, however, the father of the roadside bomb, and he lived just horrible what he did. Iran would have been perhaps in far better, stronger position. Had he lived, we would have had probably a different conversation tonight. But you know what? We'd still be winning and winning big. And then, very importantly, I terminated Barack Hussein Obama's Iran nuclear deal, a disaster. Obama gave them $1.7 billion in cash, green cash. Took it out of banks from Virginia, D.C., and Maryland, all the cash they had, in the opinion of a lot of great experts. Had I not terminated that terrible deal, I was so honored to do it. I was so proud to do it. It was so bad, right?
I was so proud to do it. All right, so you see Sennacherib, he's so proud about what he had accomplished in overthrowing the other nations. That's why, again, verse 13, surely you must realize what I and the other kings of Assyria before me have done to all the people of the earth. So this was the dominant power at the time. And then verse 15, to lead us into 16, what did it say? No God of any nation or kingdom has ever yet been able to rescue his people from me or my ancestors. How much less will your God rescue you from my power? So yeah, you can see he's so proud. And that's why the lesson is titled, Thou Most Proud. And Sennacherib's officers further mocked Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua, God of his servant Hezekiah. This is Lord in all caps. So they mocked the name of the Lord, heaping insult upon insult. Ain't that what Trump is doing? It says the king also sent letters scorning the Lord, scorning Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua, the God of Israel. And best believes these devils in their emails and in their secret meetings, they got the name Yahweh and Yahushua written, in their meetings. Scorning the Lord, heaping insult upon insult. He wrote, just as the gods of all the other nations failed to rescue their people from our power, so the God of Hezekiah will also fail. The Assyrian officials who brought the letters shouted this in Hebrew to the people gathered on the walls of the city, trying to terrify them so it would be easier to capture the city. And these same things, what God is going to save you in the hour of temptation, they could be saying these same things to us. Where is Yahweh? Where is Yahweh Shai? If he was real, he would have came by now. That's Wisdom of Solomon chapter 2. These officers talked about the God of Jerusalem as though he were one of the pagan gods made by human hands. So you see the proudness that's on display. But remember, pride goeth before destruction. So you see his pride and his proudness is through the roof. Same with Trump, it's through the roof. Let's see how this turned out for the king of Assyria. Then King Hezekiah and the prophet Isaiah, son of Amoz, cried out in prayer to the Most High in heaven. Because Sennacherib overthrew everybody else in the earth, so he was trying to take the whole house of Israel. And that's what America, they defeated, the three beasts that came before it. And in their conquest, they want to try to put us in a digital captivity by microchipping us. And the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua sent an angel who destroyed the Assyrian army with all its commanders and officers. And who's that angel that the Most High Yahweh is going to send to destroy Esau, Edom? Who's spiritual Assyria? To destroy Esau, Edom, the white man, but not only him. To destroy their commanders and officers in all the militaries of the earth. That's Yahweh Shai. So Sennacherib was forced to return home in disgrace to his own land. And when he entered the temple of his God, some of his own sons killed him there with a sword. So yeah, pride goeth before destruction. And this king of Assyria was talking a lot of crap, and what the Lord overthrew him. destroyed his entire army, and had his own sons killed them. That was a shameful way to go out. He came back with no army. Then his sons killed them. That's going to be the same with Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. But before Yahweh Shah come, the Lord going to have America suffer many defeats. So you talked all this big stuff, but they got an invasion, a ground invasion in Iran that they got to do. So they talking this big stuff now. They about to go get humiliated when they try that ground invasion on Iran. And that's going to be the Lord siding with them Iranians against America. To overthrow the proud nations. But you see the similarities. So when we get this in the book of Wisdom of Solomon, 1 verse 8, therefore he that speak of unrighteous things cannot be hid, neither shall vengeance when it punisheth pass by him. So the point here, when you speak proud or full of pride, when you speak great things, unrighteous things, you make yourself a target. So as soon as the king of Assyria, started talking big shit, he made himself a target. And we're going to show a few other small examples that when these kings start talking, big stuff, they make themselves a target. The Lord can't do nothing but destroy them because you done called them out. And this is why when you speak proud things, unrighteous things, things against the Most High, you make yourself a target. So this is the book of Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach. This is sentence 7. Pride or being proud. And what Trump say? He's so proud. This is the embodiment of America in its pride. Pride or being proud is hateful before God and man. And by both doth one commit iniquity. So when you full of pride and overly proud, you make yourself a target because you offend the Most High and man. Why you think America is being targeted by every country? America is on the hit list of every country because she's overly proud and overly full of pride. So she done made herself a target. But not only, to the other countries, but made herself a target to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah. Because again, pride is hateful before God and man. And again, that's why Wisdom of Solomon 1 and 8 said, he that speak of unrighteous things cannot be hid, neither shall vengeance when it punisheth pass by him. So the Lord got to get active now. You done called them out way too many times. And the ancient Egyptians, they actually did that too. And we going to get that example real quick. This is Exodus 5 and 1. And afterward, Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, thus says the Lord, Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah, God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness. Check this out. Pharaoh said, who is the Lord? Who is Yahweh? He said, who the F is Yahweh? That I shall obey his voice to let Israel go. And we know he said Yahweh because Lord is in all caps. I know not the Lord. I don't know no god dang Yahweh. That's what Pharaoh said. Neither would I let Israel go. See that? Yeah, he said, who is Yahweh? I know not Yahweh, neither would I let Israel go. So he spoke proud things against the Lord, pretty much called them out. And when you disrespect disrespect the Lord, he gotta get active on you. And we know how the rest of this story played out. 9 chapters later, Pharaoh and his entire army was dead on the seashore. And they still there to this day as a memorial. Now, let's see what Nebuchadnezzar did. This is Daniel 3. And to be straight to the point, I think we're going to get verse 14. Nebuchadnezzar spake unto them, is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which the Hebrew names would be Azariah, Ananiah, and Mishael? I know I done messed them up. Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden statue, which I have set up? Now, if ye be ready, that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye shall fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, but if ye worship not, ye shall be cast that same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? See that? So you see Nebuchadnezzar, full of pride, overly proud, speaking great things against the Most High. So what? We know how the rest of this story played out. The Lord had Yahweh pop up in the furnace. Now, unlike Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, Nebuchadnezzar did humble down. But see, Esau, even the white man in America, they not gonna humble down. They gonna continue to take their pride and proudness to the next level. Oh, that's why, dang, I gotta get it now. We're gonna come to the book of Job 18. I think it's around the 14, 15 verse. Look at this. His confidence, that's him being proud. That's his pride. Shall be rooted out of his tabernacle. It shall bring him to the king of terrors. So Esau gonna start being humiliated, suffering defeat, but he not gonna humble down. He not gonna acknowledge Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah, the God of the Israelites. So his confidence, his pride, him being proud, is gonna bring him to the king of terrors. He gonna beat his way till Yahweh Shai pop up and visit him. That's why next when we get the book of Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 29, call together the archers against Babylon. What's an archer? Somebody who wields a bow and arrow. And that's a metaphor for what? These countries that got missiles, hypersonic missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, nuclear missiles. Those are the modern day archers. All you that bend the bow. They got them hypersonic, intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach America. Camp against it round about. And what's Babylon? America. Let none thereof escape. Recompense her. This her, think about the gray whore. Lady Liberty. America. Meaning pay her back according to her work. According to all that she have done, do unto her. And you know what America's done. Trump gave you a little bit of it. Now imagine what all the presidents have done, since America's been a country. Think about what Esau Edom was doing here in America before America officially became America. What they did to the Native Americans. The Southern Kingdom. For she have been proud against the Lord, Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah, against the Holy One of Israel. You don't see nobody else in the earth being extra proud. Not Russia, not China, not North Korea, not none of the other Americas, not Australia, not Europe. But it says she, that's America, Lady Liberty, the gray whore, have been proud. And you see it. And we know what? According to the scriptures, pride goeth before destruction. So that's what this is about to go into. Therefore, shall her young men Hold on. That's not what I was looking for. Hold on. Okay, I see. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day. Because pretty much she was bragging about the accomplishments of the U.S. military. Well, they last win was against Venezuela. They've been losing ever since. And it's about to get a lot worse for them. 31, behold, I'm against thee, O thou most proud. That's America. Ain't nobody else showing this high level of pride in the earth. This is America. The Lord is against this place, O thou most proud. Especially when you listen to the speeches of Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, and Trump, and J.D. Vance. This place is the most proud. For thy day is come, the time that I will visit thee. So when you be proud in the earth, when you be proud against the Most High, because we know what? Pride is hateful before man and God. So being proud in the earth against fellow man, that's one thing. But when you proud against the Most High, he got to pop up now. That's why it says, I'm against thee, O thou most proud. And what it say? Thy day is come, the time that I will visit thee. So in their pride, they done spoke against the Most High, whether you catch it or not. They spoke against Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. So now the Lord ain't got no choice but to pop up. And the most proud shall stumble and fall. Now this is the fall of a kingdom. This is the nuclear destruction of America. America is not going to bounce back. That's why it says, and none shall raise him up. America not going to recover from what the Lord about to do to it. I will kindle a fire in its cities. And you seen what? Nebraska on fire. You know, these oil refineries in Texas blowing up. You know, direct energy weapons. But that's not the fire the Lord is talking about. It says, in this fire, it shall devour all around about him. This is that nuclear destruction. So that's how the Lord gonna cancel out the pride of America, thou most proud. It's gonna be with the fire. And then we can even show by name, the Lord is gonna call out Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Not Moab, not Canaan, not Elam or Ishmael, but he's gonna call out Esau, Edom, Mount Seir. Ezekiel 35:2. Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir and prophesy against it. So now we know who we dealing with. Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Now I believe I'm going to get this in the NLT. Matter of fact, we're going to start verse 12. Then you will know that I, the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua, have heard every contemptuous word you spoke against the bounds of Israel. For you said they are desolate, they have been given us as food to eat. KJV says to consume, devour. But again, previous kingdoms of the earth, they'll be proud against man and proud against the Most High. And at the same time, they had the children of Israel captive, contributing to that pride. Because they feel like, you know, they captured and defeated the top people in the earth, the joy of the whole earth. So they literally feel like, you know, they unstoppable. And saying that, you boasted proudly against me, and I have heard it all. See that? So the Lord is calling out Mount Seir, Esau, Edom, and being proud against his people and being proud against him. So what's going to be the result? This is what the sovereign Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua says. The whole world will rejoice, will not make you desolate. That's going to be by that nuclear fire. You rejoice at the desolation of Israel's territory. Ain't Trump rejoicing at the desolation of the other nations? You think America, so-called white man, is not rejoicing at the destruction of the Israelites, or them having us in captivity, 2/3 of our people being destroyed mentally. You rejoice at the desolation of Israel's territory. Now I will rejoice at yours. You will be wiped out, you people of Mount Seir, and all who live in Edom. Then you will know that I am the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah. But the overall point is Proverbs 16 and 18. Pride goeth before destruction. This ain't just the same. We understand now this is prophecy. And really, this is a prophecy of the future destruction of America. And the fall is going to be by nuclear fire. This is the fall of a global empire that we're witnessing. So, Lord willing, that was informative, edifying. Till next time, Shalom.